Pastor Doug here from Crossroads. It's great to be with you. I hope that today's message will draw you closer to Jesus.
Earlier this month, WGAL News 8 reported on an interesting fact, particularly for summertime. Knoebels Amusement Park in Elysburg, Pennsylvania, was voted favorite traditional amusement park by the NAPHA, National Amusement Park Historical Association. Who knew there was such a thing? Now, maybe you've been to Knoebels. Our family has been going to Knoebels for over 25 years, and we love it there. It is by far one of our favorite places on earth. We love to camp there. We love the free park admission. We love the food. We love the old-time family feel of the entire campground. We love the new friends that we make there. We love to catch the brass ring on the Grand Carousel, and we love to take the old-fashioned miniature train back through the woods, hoping to see deer and squirrel that are brought in, that are baited by corn cobs. Right? And you'd think that if Knoebels was one of my favorite places on earth, I would love all the rides, and I would go on all the rides, right? No, you see, somewhere around age 40, the spins, curves, dips, belly drops, ups and downs of most of these rides started affecting me in a not so great way, and I had to give them up. Fast rides? No. But if you need an official purse carrier or map holder, I am your gal. You see, regardless of the joy-filled, smiling faces of many people in the Knoebels ads and all the excitement and cheers and laughter that you hear as you're walking through the park, I know that I will be sick for days if I give in to that well-advertised, fabulous time that is encouraged and promised to every Knoebels attender. If I'd listen to that voice instead of the voice of wisdom in my head, I will regret it immensely. So every year, as I'm packing for this vacation, I have two competing voices in my head. One voice is whispering, "Dawn, it's okay. Maybe this will be the year where those spins, dips, belly drops, curves, ups and downs won't affect you." The other voice shows me images of kneeling over a toilet and having a cold washcloth on my head, and that is the vision that brings me back. That voice sets me straight. Hearing two voices in our decision-making, rival callings, if you will, isn't uncommon. But what do we do when competing voices are scrambling to convince us that their choice is the right one? In other words, what do we do when we hear both a call of the wise and a call of the wild? And what do these competing voices sound like? The call of the wise speaks rationally to us. It says, slow down. Just take a breath. Look what's happening around you. The call of the wise says, think about this decision. Don't make a knee-jerk reaction. Try to discern the outcome before you even take one step in its direction. It also asks important questions. Is there an eternal perspective to this choice that you need to think about? And is the risk worth the outcome? The wise choice, the call of the wise, speaks with intentionality, and this call has our very best interest in mind. We hear the call of the wise through our relationship with Jesus Christ. We hear the call of the wise through friends that we can trust, friends that know us well and care about us. We hear the call of the wise through prayer, through Scripture. The call of the wise is encouraging. It's God's voice saying, I'm here, hang on, you've got this, I know you can do the right thing. But in many decisions, there's also a call of the wild. Friends, it's almost guaranteed that right beside the call of the wise, beside that choice, is the choice to make the wild decision instead. It's the call of the wild that says, this outcome is no big deal. You won't regret it, just decide already. You know you want it, regardless of who might get hurt. The call of the wild is undisciplined. It says, be reckless, be careless, be quick. Now is all that matters, and it's okay. Your choice will probably only have temporary consequences. We might hear the call of the wild through social media, through the persuasion of friends who don't have our best interest in mind, and we hear the call of the wild in our own desires for the things that tempt us. And after we've chosen the call of the wild, it tries to bump us down by saying, see, you've chosen wrong. Your decision's going to get the best of you. The call of the wise, the call of the wild, 2 calls, 1 choice. I know I hear these calls every day. Maybe you do too. The call to be wise or the call to be wild are as real in our lives as you and I sitting in this room today is real. And both calls are competing for our attention. We're in week 7 of our summer series on the book of Proverbs, and today we're going to dive into a large chunk of Proverbs 9 for the majority of our text. And in my Bible, this chapter is actually labeled Invitations of Wisdom and of Folly. The call of the wise, the call of the wild. And because we're imperfect people, and it's tempting and usually easier to listen to the call of the wild, let's just lean into that choice first. What's important to remember is that the call of the wild is a personal choice for each of us. Think of this as one choice, one call when you're faced with making a decision. It's one of 2 invitations, and it's not the best one. When the call of the wild seems like the popular and easy choice, try testing it against Scripture to discover what God has to say about your choice, about what you should do. And we see this happening in Proverbs chapter 9. Solomon is describing foolishness in a very practical way. And as I read this chapter, I wondered if Solomon wasn't trying to speak a bit of wisdom into one of his son's dating journeys. Okay? Think of that a little bit as I'm reading these words. But listen to how Solomon describes the call of the wild in these verses. Proverbs 9. The woman named Folly is brash. Now, we're going to go on in a minute, but I just want to bring your attention to one thing. Don't think that only women are listening to the call of the wild here. Men, we could easily insert he in the place of she or him in the place of her. I'm just laying that out there. The call of the wild, the call of the wild is not gender specific. It is for all of us. The woman named Folly is brash. She is ignorant and doesn't know it. She sits in her doorway on the heights overlooking the city. Right away, these verses give us a hint as to where we find the call of the wild. The call of the wild holds a place of prominence in our lives. Overlooking the city indicates prominence. The call of the wild may be seen as a choice that is just right before us. We can easily see it. And that's deceiving. Because the wise choice it could look like the wise choice simply because it's the most popular choice. It's right in front of you. But if you're not cautious and discerning, you will get caught up in its lie. Verse 15. Folly, the call of the wild, calls out to men going by who are minding their own business. Come in with me. Come on, come in with me, she urges the simple. To those who lack good judgment, she says, stolen water is refreshing. food eaten in secret tastes the best. We know the call of the wild is loud. It grabs our attention because it's usually the easier choice. Stolen water, getting something for the easiest choice, getting something that requires very little effort, choosing that can be enticing. But we know that doing anything in secret also holds the chance of being discovered. Here's the warning if we choose the popular, easy, and appealing way. Little do they know that the dead are there. Her guests are in the depths of the grave. Who wants to spend the day with the person described in these verses? But this is a slippery slope. Remember, the call of the wild is tempting. It's an invitation that requires very little discipline, and it seduces us to make the choice of least resistance. The call of the wild is an invitation to choose what we want instead of what might be best for us and for the people that we love. And when we choose the call of the wild, our lack of judgment may have us regretting this decision far after the year that we've made it. I officiate quite a few weddings. It's one of the best things I love about being a pastor. And when I am meeting with young adults, when I'm meeting with them and I'm taking them through a course of study, I love to ask the good questions. I love to talk about their families of origin especially, because we are in part a product of who we are now based on the family we grew up in. And one thing I ask these couples is, tell me one thing that you want to bring with you to the new family you're creating from your family of origin. What's one thing growing up that you want to make sure you have in your new family with your spouse? And I get such great answers here. They're usually answers that center around favorite family traditions or vacations that these families took together. They're great answers. They're answers that tell me that these parents provided consistent love and care for these young adults. But then I ask a second question, and it's a bit harder for them to answer. I say, what is one thing that you do not want to bring with you to the new family you're creating today? What's something from your family growing up that you do not want to bring with you? And here's where I sense hesitation. Crickets might chirp for just a minute, but I'm patient and I lean in because these are important questions. And they regularly reveal great answers. But they're answers that can be painful to hear because they're answers where parents and caregivers regularly chose the call of the wild instead of the call of the wise. Some couples have told me, I want less anger in my home. When I have children, I don't want to argue in front of them. I want to be there for my kids. I want less arguing at our dinner table. I want to listen to my children. I want them to know that I hear them. These are hard responses to hear. You see, in our parenting choices, it can be super easy to choose the call of the wild. Maybe you're working late for the third night this week and you're missing bedtime with your daughter. The call of the wild can be the call of the wild if you think that routinely choosing your job over family will only have temporary consequences. Maybe you see athletic ability in your son, but he is just not as interested in making the team as you are. Competition can be the call of the wild when you think that now is all that matters and your pushing will not have an impact on your son. Maybe you're being overly critical with your expectations of what your spouse should be doing during the day. And you verbalize them, you tell them about this in front of your kids. You're choosing the call of the wild when you say hurtful things to your spouse and when you say them in front of your children. It is so interesting. I see it all the time. It is so interesting to see that how we parent our kids now is a direct relation to how they will treat their spouse one day. How we treat our spouse is often how they will treat their spouse in their relationships. I'm so glad that Crossroads has offered a parenting class this summer because parenting is hard work. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. We make decisions every day. No, we make crucial decisions hour by hour, maybe even minute by minute on the stressful days. And if we're honest, we're doing the very best we can. But some of our choices may not be the very best ones for those that we love the most. Let's be practical here. I'm not saying that you shouldn't put Miss Rachel on the television for just 10 minutes because you need to go to the bathroom and put the wash from the washing machine to the dryer. No, that's not the decisions I'm talking about here. But I am talking about parenting with an intentionality to try and choose wisdom over the world's lie that your decisions won't have an impact on your children in the long run. Parenting is just one area where we can choose the call of the wild and make quick, careless decisions, lean into the voices of people around us. Or we can choose the call of the wild and take time to discern the outcome, search for what God has to say about what's before us. Where are you listening to the call of the wild? And your choice, the outcome of your choice, may not just affect you, but also the people that you love. Think about that question as we look at our second option, the call of the wise. The call of the wise is also an invitation. It's our other choice. Listen to the difference in tone and intentionality as Solomon tells us about another woman. He tells us about wisdom. Wisdom has built her house. She has carved its 7 columns. She has prepared a great banquet, mixed the wines, and set the table. I wouldn't mind being invited to this house, right? Already in these 2 opening verses, there's a description of intentionality. She has built her house. She has carved her 7 columns. She has set the table. She is thinking through major decisions in her life with planning and forethought. She is not making knee-jerk reactions. Wisdom has sent her servants to invite everyone to come. Wisdom is attractional. And we are all invited to learn to choose wisdom because the fruit of wisdom is good. And because it's good and welcoming, wisdom calls out from the heights overlooking the city. Come in with me, she urges the simple. To those who lack good judgment, she says, come, eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways behind and begin to live. Learn to use good judgment. These verses tell us the call of the wise goes out with an invitation to abandon the easy or the simple choice and to grab a hold of another choice. The call of the wise is toward good judgment in our decision. Spoiler alert. I have not always chosen good judgment in my life. Many of you are probably much better at this than I am. But recently I had a choice to choose wisdom and good judgment or to be reckless and hurt someone that I love very much. And that in that particular time, I think I did pretty good. Earlier this month, our family was vacationing in Outer Banks, all 7 of us. The first time our grandbaby was at the beach. We had so much fun. We played in the sand, we jumped the waves, we ate really good food. It was a great time. But on the drive home, I was tempted to take the path of least resistance and make a quick decision, an undisciplined decision, and a decision that would hurt my husband. We were coming through Virginia. Steve was driving, and we were plowing along at a pretty good clip. And before we knew it, there was sirens and a police officer coming up behind us. we were pulled over, and we were pulled over because Steve was going 67 in a 45. Virginia will get you all the time. The nice police officer got Steve's information, his paperwork. He went back to his cruiser, and we all just sat silent for a minute. We weren't sure what to say. My kids, the baby, were in the back seat. And we were thinking through quietly in our heads just how many points Steve would get or what that would look like. How much money would we be fined? I had a choice right there along the side of Route 13 to either choose wisdom and just, or to choose the call of the wild and say potentially hurtful things. I bit my tongue, and then I actually laughed out loud because Steve said, "Hey, I wonder if I could outrun the cop and just get to the Maryland line." What kind of choice would that be, hon? Oh, man. He goes, "No." He goes, "I guess I'm not invincible." That's a joke between he and I because he has a really good driving record. I'm so glad I listened to the call of the wise instead of the call of the wild because it lightened the mood and the rest of our trip went so much smoother. The call of the wise is our invitation to pause, think, and use good judgment as we make the decisions that are before us. But the call of the wise does not come easily, and we need to have some preparation. We need to routinely try to get better at this. So to make this choice consistently, sandwiched right between the call of the wise and the call of the wild in our text are these verses. And this is instruction and reward for choosing the call of the wise. Fear of the Lord is the foundation of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in good judgment. Wisdom will multiply your days and add years to your life. If you become wise, you will be the one to benefit. If you scorn wisdom, you will be the one to suffer. So in order for us to be more equipped, better equipped to routinely choose the call of the wise, we need to know Jesus. And we need to know what we are called to do as Christ followers in our relationship with Jesus. And the foundation of this is called the fear of the Lord in verse 10. The fear of the Lord is to know God as holy and powerful. The fear of the Lord means that we honor him, his holiness, with how we live our lives. We are showing wisdom when we trust that God, he holds us in his hands when we work to obey him and when we worship him above everything else. God has us. As we get to know Jesus on a more personal level, our lives begin to reflect his, and we learn what making wise decisions looks like. Choosing wisdom brings reward. It brings blessing. It is worth pursuing. So let me give you 3 ways and a few scriptures that help us pursue the call of the wise. The call of the wise begins and ends with our decisions, our actions, and our companions. First, the call of the wise begins with our decisions. Proverbs 8 says, "Choose my instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her." This Proverbs principle gives us perspective. It tells us that there are many things that we might want, but wisdom is much more valuable than anything we can gain here on earth. Having wisdom, being able to make choices despite all the other good things around us, the competing voices around us, is more valuable than gold, silver, and jewels. That is pretty valuable. The call of the wise also begins and ends with our actions. And this verse is from Proverbs 28, and maybe you're going to read this chapter today. If you're reading through the book of Proverbs based on the day of the week, this verse is for you especially. "He who trusts in himself is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom is kept safe." Do we really need to be told not to trust in ourselves? Yeah, we do. We always want to trust in me, in I. But in reality, this is one of the lies of the call of the wild. It is foolish to trust only in ourselves and is what we think is right. Because you know what, friends? We will always disappoint ourselves. Instead, we are wise when we invest in our personal relationship with Christ, becoming more and more wise as we walk with him daily. Our decisions, our actions, and the call of the wise begins and ends with our companions. Proverbs 13. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Super clear. One of the best ways to grow in wisdom is to choose wise friends. Be around people who are wise. Include people in your circles who live with intentionality. People who aren't perfect, but people who desperately try to walk with the only perfect person there ever was, and that's Jesus Christ. When you spend time with people, you learn their experiences. When you spend time with wise people, you learn their knowledge, and then you can grow in these ways also. And this verse also says the opposite is true. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Put another way, our last verse for today, 1 Corinthians 13, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Friends, there will always be competing calls in the decisions we need to make. And when we find ourselves at the fork in the road where we can either choose the call of the wise or the call of the wild, we can turn to God. And we can ask him to lead us in the way that we should go. He will not leave us unequipped to make the wise choice. The call of the wise begins and ends with our decisions, our actions, our companions. So when you leave here today, I pray that you will pause, take a breath, discern the outcome, and seek God's voice when you hear competing calls in your life. I want to help you along the way. The staff and care team leaders here at Crossroads want to help you along the way. If there's a decision before you and you would like prayer in that decision making, please jot that down on your connection card. It simply says, I want to choose the call of the wise. Please pray for me in this way. Be thinking about this question as we sing our last song.
Thanks again for listening. Any step you take towards Jesus is a step in the right direction. You can find out more about us at crbic.org. That's crbic.org.